Hi everybody, this is Joshua Kirk back with you once again on YouTube, and now it's time for, as I promised before, episode 12 of Album of the Day, and you may notice that, as I promised, this is my first review with me using my GorillaPod that I just got for my birthday earlier this month, that I showed in my 12th birthday presents video. Just wanted to remind you guys that, and sorry I haven't been doing reviews in a while. The reason for that is because I've been really busy and I've tried many albums to review, tried many takes of reviews, but never quite worked on any of them. So hopefully this take will be just fine. But if it isn't, I'll do a take 2. So, and also, it is snowing like crazy outside. Some of you may not know that. It is like, there's a lot of snow here in Maryland. So anyways, aside from all that, let's get on to the review. Today I'm going to be talking about a blues guitarist and vocalist he's from Austin, Texas. He's been around since about 1996. His name is Gary Clark Jr. He happens to be one of my favorite new guitarists at the moment, and he's finally just breaking into the mainstream appeal with a couple songs being played on the radio. So now I'm going to be reviewing his major label debut album. The album is called Blak and Blu. This is released on Warner Brothers Records and Hotwire Unlimited. Today is my first time hearing this album all the way through, and so far I am loving it. Very rocking. Definitely one of the most raw records of 2012. The reason I checked this out is because I was very curious about the artist. Because when I buy a CD, usually, most of the time, when I buy a CD, usually, nowadays, it's like artists that I'm very curious about and want to figure out, like, this artist was one of them, along with other new artists like the Lumineers of Monsters and Men, Walk the Moon, Alabama Shakes, stuff like that. But I just wanted to review this first, because this is a great album, and this is definitely one of my favorite rock records of the year. Anyways, here's the cover. Really cool cover with Gary Clark Jr. on there. Spine, other spine, and the back. Songs on here are Ain't Messin' Around, When My Train Pulls In, the title track, Blak and Blu, Bright Lights, which is pretty much his signature song, Travis County, The Life, Glitter Ain't Gold, in parentheses, Jumping for Nothing, Numb, Please Come Home, Things Are Changing, Third Stone from the Sun, and Love Me Like You Say, You Saved Me, and Next Door Neighbor Blues. This is produced by Cavallo, Mike Elizondo, who also produced a new Eric Hutchinson album that I reviewed, as well as other people. He worked with other people like Fiona Apple, stuff like that. And Gary Clark Jr. himself produced some of it too. So now I'm going to show you the inside of the album before I move on to talking about the music. There's the tracks, and inside basically is the production credits and like the musicians. No lyrics in here, which is too bad, but oh well, at least the personnel is there, because that's another one of my favorite parts of an album. Just wouldn't be fair otherwise. And then there's a little picture of Gary Clark Jr., like in New York City or something like that. Yeah, which kind of fits in with Bright Lights, I will say. Okay, so, now I'm going to talk about the music on here. He's been around since 1996, but this is like the first time he's had mainstream appeal. But he did have other releases like this acoustic record that he mixed, produced, and performed all by himself called 110, and then he had a couple of EPs, a self-titled and the Bright Lights EP, just to tide people over for this album, since Gary Clark Jr. has been working on this album for quite a while now. So now I'm going to talk about the songs. So the first track on the album is called Ain't Messin' Around, and it's the perfect opener for the album because it sort of gives you an idea of what the album will sound like overall. It really kind of blew me away since there's like a combination of two genres in here, since there's some soul elements in here that's coming from like the B3 organ and then a horn section in here, which kind of grabs you, and kind of makes you kind of get into the album and the song. And then it's also got some garage rock elements in there with like the warm bass and the booming drums and a fuzz guitar in the background too. This is definitely a great song and definitely one of the most fun on the album. Track number 2 is called When My Train Pulls In, which is probably my favorite song on here. Great song, great guitar playing on it. It's just a long 7-minute jam, which kind of shows, and I really like this fact, that Gary Clark Jr. can really crank out a long jamming song and still keep the listener engaged and not make it boring or anything like that. Since there's some great guitar solos in here coming from Gary, throughout this whole album there's a lot of great solos coming from him, and I guess that's one of the reasons why critics are raving about him. The title track, Blak and Blu, has a bit more of a hip-hop and R&B feel to it. A little different, more diverse sound. But that's what I love about him, is that he's not afraid to try new things. Things like here you got rock, you got punk, blues, soul, and hip-hop and stuff like that. And this song shows that, as a perfect example. It's got a really cool beat to it, as well as some ominous guitar playing hanging in the background too. And the vocals on here are very crisp and clear. Definitely dates back to an earlier time. Bright Lights is pretty much Gary Clark Jr.'s most notable song, because I'm pretty sure all of you probably heard of the Bright Lights EP, and it's a good one, I will tell you that. It is definitely a great song with very raw guitar playing on it. So, no introduction, because that song is just perfect. Travis County is a more upbeat rocking song. I love the guitar riff on here. It is definitely a whole lot more raw than the first one. Not to say the first one is bad or anything like that. The first one, I will admit, is great. But this song is just a little more raw and a little more bare, in my opinion. He's got a really interesting guitar solo that kind of sounds like Chuck Berry. It's kind of Chuck Berry through George Harrison, though, because he switches from, like, double string to, like, a single string in the middle of the solo. Also love the organ sort of accompanying the main riff, and it's just there for a little bit of flavor, not overpowering anything. So, and it's kind of very reminiscent of, like, 60s soul or something like that. The Life also has a little more of a hip-hop feel to it. I'll be the first to say that I'm not a big hip-hop fan, in my opinion. Usually it's kind of all over the place and too poppy for me. But this song is great. And this song is also hilarious too, lyrically, and Gary is not really singing as much he is doing a spoken word thing, and some catchy keyboard riffs, and I really love the beginning of this song too. In fact, I remember one time where I've just had the beginning on repeat like 3 or 4 times, I don't know. This whole album is great, but probably my least favorite song on here is the song Glitter and Gold. This song, the reason it's kind of my least favorite on here is because just the guitar riffs are a little too gritty for me, and just felt a little bland to me. But that's really only a tiny complaint, because the rest of this album is just fantastic. But thankfully, the next song, Numb, really cures it very well, because I love that song. Definitely another one of my favorites. Love it to death. Yeah, like really fuzzy, kind of very reminiscent of like Black Keys' Mainstream or something like that, or the White Stripes or something like that, since it's kind of through those garage rock duos that you probably all know of. With great solo, and with really warm bass line under it. Very nice. Nice. Definitely the most garage rock sounding on here. The next 2 songs are a bit more of like air breathers, which kind of sound as if you're at work and you want to take a breath of fresh air. Those 2 songs are Please Come Home and Things Are Changing. Please Come Home is basically Gary's like lament to someone that he's kind of either lost or hasn't seen in a while. While it is just trying to put that person into his soul. And then there's a lot of great things going on. It's probably the most soul on here, because it's got a bunch of soul elements in here, like really nice string section under the vocal. And then there's like some metallic vibraphone in the background, and some horns that just pop up in the background. I like the fact that he's using all those elements, because it's there for a little bit of flavor, not trying to overpower the song or anything like that. It's just there to add a nice touch, and the solo on it is great too. Things Are Changing is definitely a little more laid back, but I know it's nice that Gary Clark Jr. is trying 2 songs kind of like this, because you know, the album is just kind of filled with intense rock guitars, so it's pretty much a rock adventure throughout. But it is as exciting and as organic and raw as the other songs on here. Another standout for me is the transition of Jimi Hendrix cover Third Stone from the Sun, which is kind of like an instrumental, and then it sort of morphs into the song If You Loved Me Like You Say, and this is another long segment in the album, since it's like almost 10 minutes. It's almost as long as Jungle Land by Bruce Springsteen. It's got a really cool blues vibe to it, with like the guitars and the B3 organ and all that stuff. So definitely one of my favorite moments on here. There isn't one moment in that song that bores me at all. All of it is just great. It just appealed to me all the way through. You Saved Me is a bit more of a crisp, clear song. Gary's vocals on here are very interesting. They're really crisp and clear once again. He's got a great voice too, I will admit that. And another interesting thing in this song is Gary's very high falsetto in the chorus. And it's got very fuzzy, kind of feedback-like guitar playing on here. Just amazing. And the closing track on here is the song Next Door Neighbor Blues. And this is definitely different from most of the album, once again. Except it's got, it's basically nothing but a kick drum, Gary's voice, and a acoustic slide guitar, which adds a nice touch to it, because this song wasn't really made for electric guitar anyway. It was made mostly for a steel resophonic guitar, which is exactly what you hear. And I like how it sounds very old-fashioned. Sounds like it was recorded on the front porch with like this very old microphone or something like that. I thought this was the perfect way to close the album, since the album overall is kind of a garage rock adventure, as I said. Overall, I think the album is great. I will admit that this is definitely one of the production on here is pretty raw. Soaked in reverb, pretty much. Great album. Definitely check it out. So my favorite songs on here, just doing my favorite songs on here since I forgot to do it in my review of Cake, Showroom of Compassion. Showroom of Compassion. So I just put it in the description just for you. So my favorites on here are When My Train Pulls In, Third Stone from the Sun, slash If You Love Me Like You Say, Numb, let me think about more, Travis County, Ain't Messin' Around, The Life, Bright Lights, Blak and Blu, and Next Door Neighbor Blues. Those are like my favorites on here. Hope you enjoyed this review. Definitely gonna have more reviews up next. So that's gonna wrap it up for episode 12. Stay tuned for episode 13, but that's not really gonna be my next video because I'm planning a trip to Goodwill tomorrow, so I'm gonna get like more VHS tapes. So I got a couple of Blu-rays here and there. So I'm gonna be doing a random update probably next. So stay tuned for that. But anyways, bye everybody.